Hi and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things On podcast from Vital Learning. I am Morten Røvik, and as always I'm here with my good friend and colleague Lars Rothschild Henriksen. Привет, Lars.
Привет, Morten. Good to see you as always, and it's always good to be with our listeners and viewers out there. We always start off with a quick reminder of the purpose of the podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTDers. We hope that today's episode supports you in that. If you're new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to the audio versions of episodes 1 through 6, where we cover the basics of GTD, the 5 steps. Today's episode number is number 136 of the podcast, and today's episode is called Clarify is the Real Key to GTD.
Not only does it rhyme, but it is also correct. Yes, so the reason we are doing this is part of my, what did I learn in 20 years of doing GTD, and I found that on a personal level and on a level from when it comes to coaching and teaching people about getting things done, this is the part of GTD that people struggle the most with, and where I spend the most of my time as a coach, trying to help people understand what is clarify and what do I need to end up with. And I'm sure you've seen some of the same things, Lars. Have you found that people find clarify difficult?
Yeah, definitely. It's just more relatable with the other steps, or at least some of the other steps that we at least start off with, where trying to capture some things. Well, people, it's not the first time that they ever saw a list, right? So that is common, but that really solid thinking through. It's just, it's a challenge for many people, and I think if we were to ask the people that attend the trainings, at least in Denmark, and if they were to sort of highlight one specific step out of the 5 steps that people say, this is probably where I will get the most value. I think it's the clarify step. I think for knowledge workers, things move fast. I think even in the training, just 1 or 2 days together, and people can see that, the clarity that this can provide, that's going to be a lot of value for me.
I do agree, and some of the things that I've seen when I coach people is that people avoid clarifying, and I'm trying to figure out why, and I've come to more like a semi-conclusion here, and I would like to hear what you think about this. Is because clarifying is about making decisions, and decision making is hard. You will need to engage the strategic thinker and not the doer, which is all we prefer to do, not to think. And the idea here is that making a decision is hard, and we touched upon that in the last episode, where you talked about trying, which I'm kind of allergic to. but I don't know what you think about this. But do you think that it has to do with that thinking is hard, making decisions are hard?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and there will be so many layers or details in how that impacts it. One thing that showed up for me when you described it the way you did was how it closes doors. Because I'm working on this for myself, even though you and I have been doing this for 10 plus years together. Even I still sometimes catch myself in being slow in our deal making process, for example, because with the deal still out there somewhere, then there is no conclusion. There's still a chance that this goes through. If I start to push and we want to make a decision, then either we get a yes or a no, right? And that is hard, because we close so many doors, and without it, there's everything's still open, right? So, and again, that's just one example of, from my perspective at least, on why this decision making is hard. Besides the fact that you need the smart Lars, I need him alert and awake to be able to go in there and make some good decisions. But
yeah, and I do believe that is that is part of it. So I don't know. Can I throw you, as I normally would do, onto the stage, asking you? Can you take us through the clarify, the steps inside clarify, and the best practices?
Yeah. Well, then I can ask which one.
Then you have to think. I'm sorry.
From the book, and yeah, exactly. The good old one, Morten is showing that you have that ready at hand, Morten. Why don't you walk us through it?
Okay, I can. Okay, I will. Okay. I will not force you to think, Lars. Clearly, you have outsourced that. Yeah, exactly. No, but the workflow, I showed it. I can show it again. It's the workflow map. I don't know if you can see this. The workflow map is something that you can find in the book, but you can also buy it in the methodology guides that you can buy from David Allen Company if you want to, and you can also buy it as a PDF from in Denmark at Vital Learning DK and ditto in Norway.no, so you can buy it and download it and print it if you want. We have the hard copies that follows the old courses, but the workflow map. And before we try this, I will read this. I have had a short conversation on GTD Connect with a guy called Randy Seidman. I hope you don't find me pulling you out, Randy, because you said something really clever that made me think. And he says that when you're talking aloud something, when you clarify, for example, helps you serialize your thinking. And being a highly associative, sequential thinking, serialized thinking is hard for me. So I used to do that I again highly recommend anyone who wants to learn getting things done. It's to try and memorize this by just talking it out, and it helps. So the first question, when you have something that you have captured, so the first step of getting things done, capture everything that has your attention, write it down, pull emails into your system, and then ask yourself one by a time, what is this? What is it? What does it mean to me? And when you know what it means to you, then you can ask, is it actionable? Am I going to do something about this? And when you've decided that there is it is actionable, if the answer is yes, then you will go to what is the core of this matter that we will talk about today, is that people don't decide what's the next action. So what's the next physical, visible action that you can take where you have everything that you need and that can be done in one sitting? And that is probably the most precise I've ever heard it been described. So physical, visible, next action where you have everything that you need and can be done in one sitting. And that is the definition of what's the next action. And if you don't do that thinking, you will procrastinate, or you will need to rethink this. The idea here is also to try and think about the next action as a doing is all that is left. There is no thinking left. So the stupider, more tired person that's a little dumber than it is in the moment now, in 2 weeks' time, who are going to do this, understand exactly without thinking what he or she need to do. So the idea here is to remove do the thinking in advance and then remove the thinking and just doing is left. How did I do, Lars? Are you happy with me?
Yes, very well. And just to for those that were curious as to why I would ask which clarify workflow you would want to go through. The reason is that we spoke about different version, because the way we teach it in the training today, there's a simplified version of that. We have covered all those details in episode 94, so you can go back and listen through that if that would be of interest.
Yes, so I'm old school. The David Allen Company old school. The crucial learning is also a good one. So and then what I found is that when I look at people's lists, because I coach people quite a lot, and when I look at their lists, and they come back to me and say, I'm doing GTD, and I look at their list and say, no, you're not. This is not a GTD list. You know who you are. I know some of you are listening to this podcast where we had some very clear communication about where I asked, can I take my gloves off and be a little blunt? When people say yes and said, you're not doing GTD here, this is not a next action. And the one of the things that I see people do is they put projects, or at least something that they need to fix, more like a keyword to what they need to get done. And when they are trying to do engage and do something here, they look at their list and their brain tells them subliminally, there is more thinking here. You're not finished thinking. And if you're not very clear-headed at the moment that happens, your brain is going to give you procrastination. Welcome to the scene of procrastination. You have not thought this through. Let's go play somewhere instead of doing the work. I don't know. Have you ever seen that, or have you ever experienced that yourself?
Seen, experienced, yeah, exactly. No, it is very common that we tend to mix this up, and it's really a pity, because you could, like you say, you could even have a very nice, clear, well-defined, but it's just a project, and you put it on your next action list, and now you're running through that list and you're seeing a project, and then you skip past it. So it can perhaps even be difficult to spot when you're a GTD, or perhaps beginning your GTD journey, and you don't really see this. And this sounds like something that Lars or Morten described in their training. Why is this not working for me? Why am I procrastinating on this? So yeah, no, I can absolutely see that.
Yeah. No, so the and it is hard. I understand for when you're fresh and new to GTD, it is a little difficult to bend your head around what's the next action. But if you can focus on, there are two things that you need to end up with if you're going to do the clarifying step. Is you should have a next action as a minimum, and if there's more than one, you also have a desired outcome. So the idea is that you will find one, if not two, things at the end of this clarify process, and it means that you need to make decisions. And as Mr. Lars, I will try, Rothschild Henriksen, can tell you, is that that may not be it may not be the best way of doing it. So in the middle there, it's do or not to do. The idea here, well, I understand, but if you don't make a decision, if we're going to do something about this, you can continue procrastinating. Yes, of course, but then you should go on things I don't want to, David will call the crap I don't want to decide about right now, and list, which is okay. But then it is on a list called that, and it's not something that's being dragged on unclear onto your next actions list. So the idea is to identify the very physical, visible next action where you have everything you need, and then start moving on this. Or if this is crap I don't want to decide about, then drag it to the according list. What do you think, Lars? Am I being too harsh with you, or?
No, I think you. So first we need to recap if people didn't listen to some of one or two last episodes where Morten played his Yoda do or do not do, there is no trying card. I said for me, it's actually helpful to try instead of insisting on doing, because there is a certain level of standards and perfection that comes with doing for me. So for me, it's actually the next action is I try this and then I try that. And it's not a procrastination. It is actually a next action that is doable for me. So so it is a strategy. And I know people that actually need to approach it this way. So that is why I shared it. That in order for me to have clarity and be able to move forward on things and not set the standards too high, My next action will be to try something, and then I'll try something else, and then I'll try something else, and that is actually the most productive approach for me.
Yeah, as I said the last time, just to add on to that, is that when you try something, you give your brain a license to not do it. Trying is. Then I am more, and this is okay. This is personal preference. I do accept and respect your try. I'm personally more fond of drafts. To just try something is like write a shitty first draft for a LinkedIn post instead of writing, as you said, what was it, Shakespearean LinkedIn post you would like to create, which is kind of like a high bar. So for me, it's it's better. So what happens if you don't clarify well, Lars? Well, can we look at the other end of that? So just walk you through what would it look and feel like if you were a GTDer who opens your lists and look at your next actions, and they are not next actions, they are projects. What really happens then?
Well, I don't. Well, it could be projects, or it could be really anything. I think we spoke a bit about this in the pre-show, where it's easy to mix up, if that's what you're asking about. That people go, they could go straight from capturing to organizing, for example. That they will be missing that step in between, and there's. As we do the system setup for people and we walk people through this in trainings, I don't know about you, but I never show the drag and drop functionality that is basically present in all of these different apps, because people will immediately start to take their mind sweep list, their brain dump, their capture, whatever you want to call it. And then just start to drag it onto the different lists that they've just been exposed to, the phone list, home lists, calls, whatever it might be, work, computer.
And the feeling is sweet. It's sweet because I made decisions. I need to do something about this.
Exactly. And that is when you end up with the list that you just described, that you get stuck on that list if you don't take the time to walk through it. So I think it probably always annoys people because people know it's there, and can you just drag and drop it? Yes, you can. But there is a reason why I did not specify this, because some of you, typically a significant portion of you, will actually then start to just drag and drop and completely miss that clarify step, or do it insufficiently, right? So they'll have mom on the list and they'll change that. Okay, I'll add a call in front of mom, but still not specify, what are we actually calling about, or whatever else it might be. So that's I think probably the end result.
Yeah, and when you drag, and that is, if you are in a hurry, you're going to clarify your stuff, and you look at your where you capture tasks or inboxes where you capture things, and then you look at it, and you're a little tired. So instead of making that decision, I need to do something about this, put it on the next actions list, and that is the classical. But when we are trying to teach people this, and as I said before, please read out to yourself the steps of what is it? What does it mean to me? Is it actionable? Am I going to do something about this? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, what is the next action? Physical, visible. I remember so clearly when I did that, when I learned GTD myself, it's like I needed to continue clarifying, learning, getting it to be habitual, because then it becomes a habit, it becomes a routine, and then it flows into the background. It becomes just the way that you clarify things, that you look at it, that I have to make a decision here. Am I going to do something about this? And if you do that, it pushes yourself into decision-making process. The end result is so much better than the unclear mom call or whatever unclear stuff you have, bank, doctor's appointment. Yeah, but what, when, what did I think here? What was like car? Anything that is kind of like a keyword is very easy. So I think, at least for me, I've come to the end, Lars. What do you think for the... do you have any ideas for anything else we need to talk about when it's come to clarify is the key?
No, just, a couple of things that showed up for me when you mentioned the title that we wanted to walk through this. One was just, and I think you experienced the same, the aha moment when people see clear next actions on their lists. That you have that in training, and people wrote down that long mind sweep list, and it's so overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff there. What am I going to do with it? And then go through the clarify step and give them time to go through that. And then having that list of clear next actions is the when you see the coin drops or whatever the right the description is. I think that really that is really cool. The other thing that showed up for me is a story with David, which happened back in when he did a small workshop in relation to the President's Summit in Copenhagen 2 years ago, maybe something like that. So there was there's this big summit, really cool, 4,000 people, I think, in a big warehouse in Copenhagen. Very, very cool event. And David was there, and he did a presentation on Teams, I think it was. And after that, there was sort of these small workshops where you could go in with the authors, and there was a small group there with David, and I joined that, and he was sort of doing a recap on this, and people were asking questions, and there was one guy there that was he was a sales guy, and David wanted to illustrate a bit more. I think the question was, they had some ambitious plans and how GTD would tackle that, for example. I don't remember specifically, but what I do remember is, and I really wish I had that on video and I could bring everyone in there and see this, because David just did not let go. He would just stick to that clarify question again and again and again. And perhaps that's why I wanted to bring this up for people, is that you may need to stick to this a bit longer. The answer might not be immediately there, because he just kept asking, and the guy was, very, let's call it associative, or very sort of high flying, very visual, very long term, and David was trying to ground him, and it was just he would not. And it's been a couple of years, so maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I think he asked like 25 plus times about trying to, so what does it mean? What does this then look like? Well, we want to have a 20% growth. Well, what does this mean? What do I see you do? What can you do actually? Not reach that target. What can you do to actually move forward towards that 20% increase in growth, or whatever it might be? It was just, I don't know if it was valuable for everyone in the room, but it was like, I will never forget it, because it just stuck with me, the way he just would not let go. And I can imagine, coaching scenarios with David, and he mentioned it to me afterwards, and so for me it just felt like a personal training in clarifying, in that we want to really be clear. So because that guy, he just kept that, well, maybe this and maybe this, maybe no, what do you want to do? So that was just fascinating, and the whole point again to remind everyone that maybe they need to stick with the clarify step a bit longer.
Yeah, I've also seen that when I'm doing training, that when in the old version of the training, we did some coaching. I don't know if you remember that part, where we took an example from one of the attendees or the participant of the course, and then we asked clarifying questions, like coaching live from in the training. And I've had a couple of where people just don't want to land. They don't want to. They're in the air, and they like being there. They don't want to decide, well, if you're going to move this forward, you have to, or it will just be something unclear still. So So, and when I see this over and over and over again, that if you are going to get good at getting things done, you need to get good at clarify. Capture comes natural to most people. Just write it out and you will feel better about what you're doing and not doing in the moment. But if you want to feel on long-term happy about your getting things done practice, you need to clarify. You can't stop doing that. You need to really put in the effort. And if there is one key that I would give you as a homework for those of you who are listening to this podcast, go there, make those kind of hard decisions. And on what should be able to get your attention when it comes to getting things done. It should be clarifying. You should really put down an effort there. It makes everything else comes easier, because if you don't do this, you will have unclear things in your system, and when you're trying to do your weekly review, it will take 2 hours. Because you haven't clarified it. You have to clarify then. You have to make decisions then. One of the other things that I found is that people misunderstand the frequency of clarifying. So that I will clarify only on my weekly review. I said, good luck. It will take you the weekend. Yeah. So, okay. I think we've hashed this out. We also have an episode called Clarify. I think
that's the episode 94 that
94.
I was referring to earlier.
Okay, so you should go back to listen to that. Now, because we are going to do shorter episodes, we will end this one. And Lars, will you take us out, please?
We will still do the takeout. We cannot forget the takeout part, and you must listen all the way through, because we always have some new stuff in here, I think, or we tend to screw up, I don't know. But please keep listening. We are fast approaching the end. No, what we do at the end is, first of all, a quick reminder of the GTD Summer Camp 2026 coming up. I'm wondering, when you listen to this episode, whether we will actually have tickets left, because they are moving fast this year. I think there is, as of this recording, I think we have 5 tickets left. So we have to be it's so nice, and we have a lot of familiar names and faces showing up on the sign up list, which is great. If you're curious about joining, gtdsummercamp.com is the place to go to learn more about it. You'll find a bit of information about what we do there. It's the group of the nicest people you can never find geeking out about GTD for a whole weekend in Denmark. Most of us meet on Friday, the 12th of June, and the conference itself is on June 13 and 14. You can find all the information there, gtdsummercamp.com. Morten will be there. I will be there. So many nice people will be there. David will be there. Catherine will be there. Their dogs will be there. Everyone will be there. So be sure to go in and sign up. Or if not, if there are no spaces left, we'll set up a waiting list. I was going to say a waiting for list. A waiting list. And we'll see. But right now we've capped it at the 60 people that we have been in the last couple of years, because that seems to be like a good number of people. So that's where we are, but we'll set up a waiting list, and then we'll see if we'll do something about that. But gtdsummercamp.com. The other place to go is vitallearning.eu to find more information about what we do with coaching, with trainings, in getting things done, in other methodologies. You could find links to the different country websites there. And hope to see you there. Go in there and have a look. You can book meetings with Morten and myself for the people in the other countries as well. Newsletters, everything that you would expect to find. Starting point is vitallearning.eu. If you are outside the Nordics Plus, then head on over to gettingthingsdone.com to find your local partners. The last thing for us is also to remind you about our GTD Master Class Retreat, right, Morten?
Yes, we do have a masterclass retreat coming up in September. This is 2 times a year. We've done it did one in February. Now we will do one in September in Denmark, in Holkenhavn Castle. Beautiful place, beautiful castle where we will deep dive into the higher horizons together with a group of maximum 12 people. And if the health of Mr. Allen is good, he will join us. If we can get Catherine Allen to come as well, as she was in February, we will try that. But at least Lars and I will be there to coach and help you grow and learn more about the higher horizons and understand who you are, who do you want to be, and how to move yourself to wherever that is. And it's been very successful. The feedback is phenomenal. So check out the link in the show notes to find the Masterclass Retreat, and click and read, see if it is for you, and send us an application, because it's by application only. So, okay. Anything to add, Lars, before we end?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. As always, stay safe and stay productive, people. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Byron.
And